Welcome back to Read Poems Every Day. This morning I've been reading Ruth Awad's recent poetry collection, Outside the Joy. I came across Awad's work when reading the edited collection of a friend of mine, Lisa Faye Kootley, who, in a heroic feat of poetic editing, has gathered together dozens and dozens of poets into this collection, In the Tempered Dark, Contemporary Poets Transcending Elegy. Highly recommend this volume. I also highly recommend that you go and read Ruth Awad's collection, Outside the Joy. I came across a poem in this collection today that also was previously published in the Adroit Journal, issue 48. And this is a poem I want to spend a little time with today. I won't do a full walkthrough of the poem, uh, but I thought at least what we can do is move through the first two steps, and maybe as this week unfolds, we'll come back to it and think about the other steps in slowly getting to know a poem. So, although I've been familiar with Awad's work now for a couple of years, this poem is new to me. Yeah, I am today years old, having read this poem. So let's take a look at it together. Step one: read it aloud. Take Me With You to the Mountains by Ruth Awad. Is it true that the dead are so modest they require a shroud? I'm dying to know if privacy is even a thing when you're everywhere. I read we call our afterlife Akira and our heaven Jana. There is no sadness there. I can't imagine a life without sadness. What else could bring you to your knees? And would I miss the sharpness? Either way, you're in a grave until the day of judgment, facing the Qibla. 3 handfuls of dirt, 3 days of mourning. Did you know your daughters weren't at your procession? And did it hurt even if it's custom? My father watched his brother carry your body from his phone's small screen. That's what happens when you die in a pandemic, an ocean away, his grief rippling out through waves and satellites. Did you like America? And did it hurt you that my father never came home? Did you ever love him like you loved his brother, Tita? It's so hard to be mad at the dead. I think my father will mourn you until he's gone. When he talks about you, he does so like he's telling me about a person I've never met. And it hurts, if only because it feels true. I feel your hand on my spine to straighten my posture. You insisted I should be beautiful at all times. I was just a kid and didn't understand beauty. I still don't. I kissed your hair and smelled mint. I kissed your soft cheek. I held your soft hands. I didn't know I would never see you again. All right. As you can see, I've sorry, a little emotional after that poem. Great poem. Take Me With You to the Mountains. And again, this poem is included in the collection Outside the Joy. Um, we probably will only spend today having read it aloud, counting some beans, although maybe it won't take that long to get through this step. But if my past videos are any indication, this is one I like to sit with for a while. I cheated a bit and did go through and highlight every 10th line in the poem, and that's just so you didn't have to watch me insert those highlights. So as you can see by these highlights, if you counted them out, this is a 40-line poem. 40 lines, one stanza, if we can even call a poem that's has no stanza breaks a stanza. 40 lines, one stanza. Lines relatively, if not uniformly, the same length. The same length. And I'm just seeing that visually. I'm not necessarily, I hadn't actually counted syllables or anything. Is it true the dead are so modest? They require a shroud. I'm dying. So that those lines are approximately the same length, maybe one beat difference there. Either way, you're in a grave. So that one's only 7 beats, but still, you're talking about lines that are between 7 and 10 beats, maybe at most. So they, at least visually, look pretty much the same. Times I was just a kid and didn't understand. So that one's maybe the longest I've counted so far, about 11 beats or so. So we can so there's some variation, relatively the same length, some mild variation, 7 to 10 beats or so. Okay. Um, so 40 lines, one stanza, lines relatively the same length. Now, some of the tricky bits here now, enjambment. Is this something that even makes sense for a poem that, as we see, has very little punctuation? At least it has no punctuation that affects syntax. So the only punctuation we see are apostrophes, really, I think. So one there, two, three, four, five. So I'll just kind of keep it there. But for the most part, and all the apostrophes tend to be no right there. No, all the apostrophes tend to be contractions. Oh no, this one's possessive here. Phones. So this is a possessive apostrophe here, but most of them tend to be like this, where it is a contraction. I am dying. Um, okay. Let's post there just in case I click away and everything goes away. Okay, back up. Punctuation, almost no syntax. I don't even know if this is the right word. Syntactic punctuation. The only punctuation um, used is apostrophe, mostly contractions. At least one possessive. So one apostrophe indicating possession. Um, okay. And so the use of apostrophe with contraction suggests, the poet is in one reason to use contractions in poetry is to affect the voice. What kind of vibe, right? What kind of vibe do you want your voice to have? Um, Contractions are a little more personal, a little less formal. Um, Also a little less reverential, maybe reverential, although this does seem a rather reverential poem. Um, Also, contractions affect meter. So you turn something from cannot into can't, and it becomes one syllable. So contractions become a way, as long as people have been writing metered poetry, contractions become a way to control the line. Okay, in terms of enjambment, then we'll come back and think about pronouns in a bit. Enjambment. This might take a while because I have to kind of go through almost the whole thing. And it might turn out that most of the lines are actually enjambed. Is it true the dead are so modest they require a shroud? So those first two lines, modest, they um, are enjambed, are enjambed, and you have to, as you heard in my reading, you have to sort of think ahead and look ahead and anticipate through a kind of trained intuition where a sentence may or may not be stopping, where a list might be beginning. I will say the poem gets a little harder to read out loud as you move through until you read it two or three times, probably. Um, it's possible if I make more videos about the poem in the later videos, I'll be so the end of the poem will be so familiar to me. I'll have a good sense of where things where one is supposed to pause or not pause. But early on, I'll say the syntactic units are pretty easy to just feel your way through as you read. And part of that is just, it wouldn't make sense, for instance, to keep reading between shroud and I'm dying. Is it true the dead are so modest they should require a shroud? I'm dying. You see, like it doesn't make syntactic sense. So there it's just a natural pause after shroud. I'm dying to know. And so there you have um, more enjambment. Again, and of course, there, the enjambment at dying is so sort of thematically and ironically important because the opening sentence refers to the dead, and then the speaker, in a kind of colloquial way, using English idiom, "I'm dying to know," which is a common phrase, but in proximity to that first line, um, seems to carry some sort of weighted significance. Um, if all of these lines turn out to be enjambed, I probably won't. Um, I'm putting these in the wrong spot. If you're watching this and yelling at the screen, well, I hope you're not yelling. That doesn't seem to be the tone of the podcast, the channel anyway. But if you're like, come on, man, get those in the right spot. Now they are. Okay, so modest they, dying to, thing when. All right, let's scan down the right margin and just see if there are any end stops, because I might just do a dot 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 here because it's possible I wasn't tracking this as I was reading that all of the lines are enjambed. So modest they should require, dying to know, thing when you're everywhere. I read or I read. That is one question I have, if that's read or read, because I think it changes again the vibe. Read we call, and our heaven. No, there is no sadness. Um, can't imagine a life. What else could? Um, what else could bring you to your knees? It's possible there's an end stop. Let's do punctuated pauses instead. So knees and, so these would be lines 9 to 10. I put a question mark there because I'm not sure, but it does feel right. I can't imagine a life without sadness. Pause. What else could bring you to your knees? Question mark. And would I miss the sharpness? Question mark. And so there would be many ways to punctuate that if we put punctuation marks in, but even so, it makes sense to me to pause at knees. So it seems to me that might be one place where something like a punctuated pause would have to happen. And maybe sharpness in either that seems to make sense too, because that doesn't kind of spill over in the same way. Grave until judgment. It's possible there would be a comma there, until the day of judgment, comma. Maybe not though. I'll put Put a question mark there too. I think I may have paused there. 10, 11, 12 to 13. I think there's one at morning and did. So these would be lines 11, 12, 13, 14 to 15. Did you know your daughters weren't and did it? My father. So there's a caesura right at the end of this line here. Um, Small screen, when you, ocean away. So you see like some these enjambments are really clever because they're happening right in the center of a phrase, a common phrase, an ocean away. Um, what happens when you die? I mean, these are really sort of dramatic enjambments, and by dramatic I mean that in a really good way. Um, Through waves, did you like America? That my father, did you, his brother, apologies if I mispronounced this name, which I probably did. Mad at, will mourn, when he, these are all enjammed. He talks about you, he does so like. So yeah, another enjambment, another enjambment. I think this is paused here. Posture and you on my spine to straighten my posture. You insisted I should be beautiful, so there's a it seems to me a pause there. So that what lines are those? So no, we're not counting enjambments anymore because so many of them are. Um, Almost every line is enjammed. Okay, so posture you, what line is that? So that's 31 to 3, 34 to 35, I think. 31, 32, 33, 34, yeah. All times, understand beauty, um, hair and, soft cheek, didn't know. So yeah, I think that's so that means there's only one, two, three, four, 5 lines out of 40 lines that where you pause at the end. But most lines, another thing I should probably count, are there any lines that have no pause in the middle? Now that would be something to check. Um, is it true the dead are so modest they require a shroud? So line one, has no pause in it. No caesura. So line one, we have a caesura here. I'm dying to know. So line three, I'm dying to know if privacy is even a thing when you're everywhere. So line that you read through that line without pausing. I read we call our afterlife. So line five. All right. So there are a few actually, a few lines where there are no pauses at all. Um, I can't imagine. Okay, so here we might not do the whole poem. I'm just kind of curious. Maybe we'll do the first 10 lines. So there's a caesura there, and here, life without sadness. So line 11 kind of doesn't have doesn't have any pauses, but that's also because it begins a new phrase. So it comes after one of the punctuated pauses. Okay. I think that that's enough. So there are some lines that so not every line has a punctuated pause in the middle of it, but many do, and maybe most do, if this is any indication. In the first 11 lines, only 4 of them have it are exist without any pause in them at all. Okay. Pronouns. I think this is the last thing to go over, right? I don't know why that's there. Oh, I think, right. If you put a bracket around something, it'll sometimes think it's a hyperlink. Okay. Pronouns. So clearly, hmm. So we have they in line 2. This refers to the dead. Um, Maybe I should put this afterwards. I, which is sort of passum throughout the poem. I'm dying. I read or I read. There, the we, which is important. This is line 5. We call our afterlife. So this is um, referring to Muslims, people who practice Islam, belong to the Islamic faith. Um, I hope I have that right. I hope I have that right. Read, we call our afterlife. But I mean, what's so interesting there, I read, we call our afterlife, that suggests a kind of both a collectivity, but also a distance that the speaker has from maybe the fuller body of believers and practitioners. Um, so anyway, just a thought. Notice again, paying attention to pronouns, the potential situation or a potential sense of who the speaker is starts to emerge, even though there's not really a story here. It rarely is with with lyric poetry. So we, our. So that's 5, 6, and 7. Oh no, just sorry, just 5 and 6. One, two, three, four, five, six. Right. Um, there's an interesting your here. Your general, because there is a you later in the poem, but that seems to be a specific address, where this one seems to be a general one. What else could bring you to your knees? But maybe not. That would be a question we maybe consider either in a few minutes or later in our process of getting to know this one. The you in line 11 definitely seems different. What else could bring you to your knees? And would I miss the sharpness? Either way, you're in a grave until the day of judgment. So that would be an interpretive question. Is the you of line 11 the same as the you of line 9? Seems not to me, but maybe. But just note like what pronouns can do, right? They're so flexible that the same word, just 2 lines apart, can point in 2 completely different directions. And that you appears again. You're in a grave. 11, 12, 13, 14. Line 15, 16. Uh, his, which this refers to the father. This is line 18 and 19. I don't necessarily need to, because this you seems to repeat quite a bit, as does this one. Okay. The interaction of I and you picks up in the last 10 or so lines, though it is sort of prefaced by questions about you and he. So that'd be mother and father there. The IU interaction leads us to the closing situation where kind of general memory blurs, maybe, with the memory of the last the last visit. We'll call it that. All right, so that's 25 minutes with just reading aloud and bean counting. Bean counting. I think we will come back to this poem in this week and do the full walkthrough. Um, yeah, I think that sounds right. That sounds right to me. Anyway, thanks for spending time with me and with Ruth Awad's poem "Take Me with You to the Mountains," and we'll see you tomorrow to read more poems.